Welcome back to the shops. It's November of 2020 when I'm making this video, and you know, it's kind of crazy out there in the big wide world, but here in the basement things are working quite well. Got a lot to show you, and I did want to mention that YouTube says this channel now has 720 subscribers. So thank you very much for subscribing, and I'm hoping to make more content so we can continue keeping ourselves busy in these really strange times. We're back at the workbench. I've got a lot to show you this week, this month. This is a cab that I designed for the Bachmann On30 042 for the Porter. And let's get a bit of light there. You can see it's got it's more of a metal kind of look as opposed to the original wood cab. This new cab is supposed to be metal, riveted metal, and it's also printed in SLS at Sculpteo, which SLS is selective laser sintering. It's a better process for details, and it's also cost effective. So it's not as expensive as some of the other processes that Sculpteo and Shapeways use. It actually contrasts with multi-jet fusion printing. Let me just show you. This is we'll look at some of these prints that are MJF prints. These are Flatcar frames printed in MJF. Multi-jet fusion is stronger, a bit more flexible, a bit more durable, and easier to cut. Well, not easier to cut and shape. It's easier than resin. In resin, we're doing more resin prints in-house, and this is an example of an HO project that I'm actually printing most of the time now. So this is, and you can also see the rivet details, and so it's got some coloration that will be covered up by paint. But first, I want to show you a technique that I'm working on for smoothing out SLS prints, like the kind of prints that you would get from Sculpteo with a locomotive cab or a locomotive body or a tender body for that matter. And this is something I'm experimenting with. So let's, I want to show you how it works, and then later on I'll show you the finished product once we get paint on it. But it's a process for smoothing out SLS. Getting really close here. Let me begin by removing the cab. I've already smoothed this part here, but the door hasn't been smooth. So you might be able to hear this. It's a very smooth surface, whereas the door is probably going to fall off. A bit rougher. That's more of all I've done with this print after receiving it from Sculpteo is prime it with some Vallejo polyurethane primer. And so that gives it a black color and gives you something to work with. But as you can see the difference, I think. Let's focus in a little bit better there. That's better. Get really close and things look pretty weird. So I am going to take the cab off, take the doors off, well, and look at the other side. So this has not been, well, it's been primed, but it's not been painted. So what I've got is some extra primer, or not, extra resin, some Soraya Sculpt, and this is kind of a, I don't know, it's partly translucent. That's not very slick, was it? Here we go. That's some of the extra resin that I've got around, and actually, I don't know how you get small amounts of resin. We won't need very much for this. Oops. Come on, guys. There we go. So what I'm going to do, I've got my cap of resin over here. Get just a little bit. I've never tried to do this. Wow, it's hard to see. And I'm going to brush it on. Well, not very evenly. I'm going to work with gravity and let the gravity smooth it out and fill in the low spots in this slightly rough SLS surface. A little bit more. I am not Bob Ross. Happy little train cab. It's not smoothing the way I want it to. But again, gravity will work with you. There should be, I don't know if there's a way to thin resin to make it less viscous. So this is not, well, there's a little bit too much over here, so I'm going to kind of thin that out a bit. Bob Ross makes this look easy. So hang on a bit. I'm going to let this sort out and let gravity do its thing and let it smooth a bit. Hang on. That's better. I used my finger to actually smooth it a bit, and then be sure not to leave resin on your finger too long, because it is a mild irritant. Not that bad. So I'm now going to take my handy laser, and this is a 405 nanometer laser. Hard to talk while you're doing this stuff, and I'm going to use it to cure the resin on the model. The nice thing is not like paint. It's not like you're going to have to wait for it to dry, because it's already solid. And then a bit of sanding, and that will help smooth out the surface to take another coat of primer and some paint. So I will do another video where I show you the end result and give it more of a metally sort of look. And now I've got a couple of other things I want to show you. So this is a package freshly arrived from Sculpteo. This is how things come in the mail from California or from France. And these are 10-foot underframes for flat cars. Not that hard to do, but I had the parts and wanted to see what it would look like, so I made these. And here we can see, let's get our, these are two that are connected, and so I'm going to slice these apart and just clipping those support structures on the sides, and we'll have the underframes for two flat cars. And this is an example of multi-jet fusion material. It's kind of this gray, speckly kind of material. And it's more speckly. It looks like it's rougher than it actually is. Once you get primer on it, it smooths out a lot. But the advantage of this is that those support struts there are pretty strong. A lot stronger than SLS would be, and a lot less brittle than resin would be. This is one of those things, one of those types of model parts that would not work well in resin. And it will end up looking, well, let's just set those there. And there is that's one of the prototypes. So the design's changed a bit since this started, and this one was actually printed with a deck. The parts on Sculpteo are either with a deck or without a deck. And there's a 12-foot, same thing, just stretched out a bit with a bit of support in there. That's a 12-foot flat car, 10, 12, 14. I think 14. Yeah, 14-foot flat car. And I just had the frames printed and then made the deck out of balsa wood that was actually from Hobby Lobby, one of our local places, which was the easy way to get it. And it rides on Kadee trucks, Kadee couplers. And then a 16-foot flat car. A little bit of color, again, the same trucks, and this was a deck that was actually printed in place. And it's got nail holes. You can see the nail holes running the length, which are a little bit randomized. Personally, I still prefer to use a real wood deck. It's also a lot less expensive that way, which is always good. So, and these, let's see, where did my other, what did I do with my other parts? I was going to show you the frames. I'm going to keep shooting. I'll find them at some point. So these are, the frame. I do recommend the frames without the wood. If you can build your own deck, and then you can, color it, weather it, and nothing looks more like wood than real wood. Also, these are Let's get closer on these. This is a set. I'm figuring out how to do the bells. These are a variety of bells for On30 locos, and they range from, on the far left there, you've got quarter-size bells. In the middle are medium-sized bells, roughly what would be used on the Mogul, and then some large ones that fit larger locomotives like the 460, the big one that Bachmann makes. And so, again, bells work best in MJF, and I'm working on getting these available on the Facebook store because most people don't need 14 bells. They need 1 or 2, depending on what they're working on. So I think, you know, putting them in batches like this, it makes sense from a cost perspective. It costs about the same to print 14 bells as it does to print 1. The pricing is weird, just because you're dealing with a company that deals with large quantities of models. But and really, if you're going to be better off with a metal bell, from someone like Wiseman Model Services or you know, any of the older manufacturers. A metal bell is always going to have more weight. It's going to look better. The frame can be thinner. So this is kind of a a stopgap because I'm building a lot of stuff. And I also wanted to show you, this is a combo set of 2 different kinds of brake sets for Bachmann trucks. And half of them are set for the normal arch bar trucks, and half of them are for the low trucks. So let me show you more of what they look like when they're installed. All right, so here is a standard Bachmann arch bar truck. I'm going to flip it over, and you can see there's a space there, and this fits right into that and leaves a hole where you can fit the mounting screws. And I'm generally finding I need to super glue these in place because white glue will just fall off. And boy, those are kind of shiny. I'm going to have to knock some of the shine off those trucks. But there is, it's just a slightly different look. It's pretty low cost. And really, there are some, really nice trucks that are made by San Juan and different companies that are just really sharp and detailed and really pretty, but they're also expensive. And so for a couple of dollars per car, you can go this route and have, a similar look without getting into a similar cost. So that's what I wanted to show you this time around. I did find my 18-foot freight car frames. I mean, it could be a flat car, it could be a Gond, could be all kinds of stuff. And I'm trying to print some of the stakes that will go along the side of the car as part of the frame, so you have some extra parts to work with. And these are roughly the same size as the Bachmann 18-foot cars, but not nearly as detailed and somewhat less expensive. So I will show you one of these when I get it completed. It will fit kind of in this line. And of course, I found this old tank from, I think it was from Rio Grande Models, and it fits nicely, somewhat crookedly. Anyway, fits on the 12-foot flat car. I mean, maybe we could print some of those. I don't know. I don't really want to get into freight cars at this point. Too many locomotives to build. But that's where we are at the moment, and we will show you more as we get it printed.